Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. A lot of news stuff that went down the last week and a half, 2 weeks. We were covering all of it, and it seems we have finally made it through the storm. We got the final TCG side of stuff for Legacy of Destruction, and it's actually been released last weekend officially. And now we have also Infinite Forbidden is finalized, and all of their reveals as well happened at the later end of last week as well. So I did a video going through all of Legacy of Destruction. Now I want to go through where Infinite Forbidden is and all the cards that come in there that I think are relevant in any way, basically. And talk about where the set is, what everything it has, because we cover things slow and steady over the course of 3 months, and then when it finally comes out, you kind of have to go back and try to look at it with a little more of a holistic view to kind of see where the set is and what it might bring to the metagame. I think it's going to change some stuff for the OCG, and that's going to give us a heads up on what might adjust for us as well in the TCG. Keep in mind, we're obviously going to get our 20 extra cards in 2.5 months revealed when we're getting closer to this coming out for us in the TCG, but until then it's still good to have a good idea of where this set sits for us and everything that's in it. So we're going to do this the same style we did the last video, tier list style. I'm going to throw everything in here one by one as we go and see where we land. Looking at the tiers, we have new deck top tier, new deck interesting, so this is some stuff that might be like rogue-ish. For new decks, new support strong, new support rogue, new support casual stuff, generic staples, and generic and spicy. This is generic staple is like a card that almost any competitive player may be interested in. Then one and below is like a handful of really interesting cards that are for a very specific couple of decks. Maybe they're not quite as strong as the cards up in generic staples. They'll kind of explain themselves as we go. All right, let's start off here with our new Exodia support. I would put this in new deck interesting because I think this is a new deck. I know there have always been Exodia FTK decks in existence, but this is not what Exodia wants to do anymore. I think you have a better shot winning your locals if you just actually play this new Exodia support over, playing Exodia FTK. So it's actually pretty cool. They do have some pretty strong engine cards. The drawback's going to be, of course, you have to play all 5 bricks of the Exodia pieces just to even make the deck function in any way, shape, or form. But that being said, they do some decent things. Their boss monster's pretty strong. They have some recurability. They have some solid extenders. They've got some starters. I'm with it. You got to pay some life points, but who doesn't these days? So we'll take it. I think they're actually a rogue deck, and I think we will see them top a regional. Or a couple. I actually do. And all it takes is a one-trick guy that can get it there. Next up, we have this weird stuff. This is support. I don't know whether to put this in casual support. I guess I have to put it in rogue because I kind of already called the new Legacy of Destruction Yugi deck rogue already. It's a lower end rogue to me, but I thought it was interesting. I thought it had some stuff going on for it that was actually not the worst, and it seems like it doesn't always take your normal summon, so it's semi-splashable, all that stuff. This is a weird combination where they try to tie together Dark Magician and Yugi's new cards, basically. I don't think it's very good, because I think the main problem with this card is it doesn't special summon itself. It allows you to normal summon itself without a tribute, which is terrible, because one of the cooler things about the engine is it didn't necessarily need your normal summon. So this kind of stinky. I'm gonna put in support rogue just because it's going for support for a package that is already I think roguish, but other than that it's tough. Okay, this is where we get weird because I don't know what to do with this. I don't even know whether to throw this in generic and spicy for the new light and darkness dragon stuff. They get a couple new monsters that are decent extenders, and then they can also just they fuse on field. And they can kind of get you into this. I think they can also fuse you into some generic dragon monsters as well. The problem is I just have a hard way seeing this, seeing how strong this is at this point in time. I think this support probably lands in higher level rogue. I don't know if I can necessarily put it all the way at strong. It's just hard to say because when you take a giant category like Chaos Dragon, you know what I mean, Dragon Link stuff, and then you throw a package like that in there, it's hard to tell exactly how impactful it is and how much it changes for them. I'm going to put in cool. I think it's rogue support. Maybe Dragon Link's just already a good enough core where you could maybe consider it strong support, but I'm going to put it in high level rogue for now. Gimmick Puppet. This is strong support, man. I believe they just had an 800 person YCS, and one of the gimmick puppet players made it either top 32 or top 16. I think that's already almost enough. I think this is a good combination of not quite being as degenerate as Tenpai Dragon going second, in terms of like, if your opponent's not ready, you can kill them that easily. But it does have legs going second, because that's what the deck has already kind of been known to do. But now it actually has some pretty scary things it can do first. I wish those things weren't quite as degenerate. Seems like they have some degenerate win conditions going first. But it is what it is. I mean, a good deck is a good deck, and I think this deck is going to be a little bit scary when it comes out with the new cards. Their field spell is Tenpai Dragon-esque and very, very scary. Okay, next up, Whitewoods. Whitewoods is very interesting. I think they're somewhere on the cusp here, because they seem like more of an engine where, like, on their own, they could not be a top-tier deck. But I'm going to put them in interesting, but they're very interesting to me, because I think whether it's Runic, whether it's Centurion, whether it's something else, this deck as an engine could combine with another engine to really be solid. They really seem to do a couple of things really, really well. It just doesn't feel like it's fully well-rounded enough on its own to be there by itself. But really cool. I'm excited to see what people do with them going forward, and we'll see. Fiendsmith as well, very interesting. They're similarly interesting. I can't put them top tier necessarily, because we just saw, I believe, new YCS, and this deck was not super represented there. But I do think it's solid. I mean, I just can't go all the way to top tier. I think it's very interesting. It's at the top of interesting. Just can't go top tier for me. It's really good. Generic engine. Doesn't take up a ton of space, but it can get you a negate. It can get you multiple interruptions. It can, I think, technically sort of get you an Omni negate. Not really like an Omni, but like the Evolsar, like Omni for a board to kind of give you a more solidified, like, protected board from certain things. I think it's a pretty good package. I really do. I don't know. I think we'll see it somewhere, but I think it may be more on, like, the rogue level, because, like, decks that are already super high tier competitive may not need these kinds of, like, engines added to them. All right, next up we have Rika. This goes into rogue support. I'd put it definitely better than this guy. Maybe not quite as good as the dragon stuff, but it is interesting. I don't think it's amazing, unfortunately. I was really hoping for a good second wave from them. I really hope they do get another wave in the next core set, but we'll have to see. They get an ability to, like, draw extra cards on the end of their turn, so, like, you do increase the potency of the deck by only really having to add one, like, sort of bricky card. It's not the worst thing in the world. But, yeah, they're there. Tenpai Dragon, really strong support here. I gotta put them above Gimmick Puppets. I think this deck is very, very scary already in the TCG. I'm just kind of scared to play against it. I don't have that much personal experience just yet, but it is just scary looking at it. And I think it's going to be a top-ish tier deck. I don't think it can be the best deck, but I do think it's strong. It's up there with Gimmick Puppet. This deck wants to go second, but now I think even with this new card, these new engine cards they got, they're, like, even better, like, with what their engine does now. And maybe they do a little bit more going first now to actually, you know, not just die if they have to go first. I think they're actually getting access to a couple of really strong engine cards here. Very curious to see how much these do for them. Next up, Centurion stuff. It has to be considered strong rogue, or I don't know about strong. I'd put it, like, at the high end of here. I think I don't think the support's, like, out of this world, but I think it's nice for them. And considering they're already, like, a borderline top 10 deck in either format, I think means just the new tuner is important. The new tuner is just important in that all the Centurion monsters can only be special summoned once per turn, so the fact they only have one tuner is a little brutal as far as what their overall turn one output even can be. But now they have another one, even if it's just a one-off card that once you've already gone through Primera, you need to get access to this card to get an additional tuner on the board, that can actually do a world of help for the deck, and it seems like something the deck really was asking for. I think that's enough. So I'm going to put in strong support here. Drytron, they get some cool stuff. They're rogue support for sure. I don't know if they're better than Rika. They're somewhere in that range, though. They're just like a very hand-trap, you know, like, not appreciating deck. Although they do some powerful things. I love their new level 1 monster. I think their new boss monster is interesting, but it does feel like he takes a decent amount of investment. But other than that, you know, people like Drytron, so somebody's going to come through with it. I don't know how much significantly better they are, but they're definitely better now. So keep an eye out for them. Memento, I think, takes a huge step forward. I almost want to put them above Dragon Link. Like, it's really hard to say, and we're really super early, so we haven't even seen much, like, from the OCG on where these are. These two, like, this new fusion monster is insane. They also get a new main deck monster that's a solid extender, plus giving them more ways to fusion summon. And I think this deck seems pretty strong. I see a lot of people say that the deck beats Nib, it beats all the things you want it to beat. Pretty into that. I'm actually going to move this down here. Your casual support to me now. I don't think they changed that deck like at all. Okay, fun stuff. Okay, new, this is the Electric Mushroom guy. He's like low-key Thunder Dragon support, but not really. I don't know if he's actually good enough to even play in Thunder Dragon, because it feels like Thunder Dragon's just been so power-crept that if they're not combined with Bestials and crazy stuff like that, they don't do enough on their own. But this card's cool. I think for a Thunder deck, it's like a fun, like, Thunder extra guy, and with Colossus now in both formats, like, he could be a little interesting. Draco, also very cool. This card, technically, you could throw it in the Tenpai Dragon stuff. If Tenpai Dragon ever feels like they're not consistent enough and they need more starters, they could play this card. This card just basically says on normal something like, add a Fire Dragon. So it is pretty generic. And fire is not the least represented attribute for dragons, so that's definitely something we could see there. I'm going to put in generic just because I wouldn't be surprised if down the line some weird Dragon Link variant comes up where, like, just having, you know what I mean, a guy like this, maybe one of the better normal summons in the deck just because what it can get access to. I have no idea, but I think this is a perfect place for it. This new generic staples. Now, I will preface this by saying I don't know how much play this is going to see in the OCG when you already have Max C. Adding more copies of, like, weaker Max C. Is that really what you want? Maybe, I don't know. But I think for us, where we don't have access to something like Max C, I think this card will be a regular side deck staple in the TCG. This card reads like Baby Max C, and I think it's just, it's fairer, way fairer than Max C, but I think it's just strong enough where I think it will see enough play in our format. So that's really exciting. More stuff. Level 5, like Machine Pendulum Extender. Just not a bad card in general. He jumps on the board pretty easily as an extender, which helps a lot. If Electromite was more readily, was unbanned in the TCG, this card would be a lot more interesting. But there's definitely some stuff there for this card. It's a pretty cool card. Light Fiend Boss Monster. You can ban it. It banishes like a monster spell and trap from your graveyard, so it is annoying that it needs all three, and that's definitely some setup. So very specific decks would need to take advantage of him. But when he hits the field, he is kind of like a Chaos Dragon Levianeer type card. Like it blows up the board, which is pretty cool. Madolche, I'm gonna say high tier rogue support. I'm gonna put this up here. I think a lot of people kind of recognize that Madolche is already always kind of looming around, right? Nobody thinks their engine is super, super bad. I would have loved to see one more main deck card, maybe a spell for the deck that's like actually not a bad card to draw. Feels like sometimes you look through the Madolche spells and traps and there's like 5 or 6 of them and you're like, oh, that's a decent card, but you don't want to draw them. You want to search them off of the engine. So it would have been nice to see something like that, but I wouldn't complain too much about the engine, but the deck actually has like much better payoff than it did before. You have another trap that gives you another powerful interruption to end on. You get this card, which is very easy for you to get to, and it's just like a double shuffle on the opponent's turn. So if you don't OTK or you're going first, you have some actually pretty potent interactions now. That was definitely something people complained about before. I like it. I think it's a nice little buff to them on what like their overall output is. Again, would have liked one more like main deck engine helper, but I don't think they needed a ton. Just one little thing would have been nice, but I thought they were already really close anyway to being playable, so we'll take it for sure. New rank 4. Fun card. It's kind of like a weird little illusion rank 4 where I think like if he has an illusion as material, he's a quick effect to kind of just like negate a card on field, and I think he does like a couple other bonus effects. He's not a bad card. I'll probably pick him up just in case I find something to do with him, but yeah. Valmonica, they can go at the very bottom of Rogue. I have a couple people that push back on me whenever I shit on this deck, and I hear you. Like, you know what I mean? Nobody wants one of their favorite decks to get shit on. I just still don't see it, but I'm here for you. The Link 2 is pretty powerful. The problem is, like, the deck takes a while to get there. I don't know whether you do it through interaction. Whatever. I'm going to put it here. I'm going to give it Rogue level status, but it's low Rogue for me. That's as high as I'm going. This card is really cool. I'm going to put this up here near Draco. So this new little Link package, you can put this card. Well, this card can go further at the bottom. So this new Link 2 on summon, it takes any 2 monsters, just like gets you a continuous trap monster. Like any continuous trap that summons itself as a monster. So a couple Eldritch cards, a couple generic cards that are just interruptions. There's a couple different things you can get off of this. And I do think that's kind of interesting in that, like, obviously it's not nearly as potent, doesn't offer you nearly as much follow up or anything like that, but like almost in the same category as like what Verte Anaconda was a couple of years ago. If everything else you do gets stopped, and maybe the deck you play doesn't have something else to do, like generically to do, like would you rather make this or would you rather make SP Little Knight, right? And you don't even get the first effect because you've already summoned him because you don't have a third body kind of thing. Is there a world where you might be comfortable playing one continuous trap monster that's a decent interaction? Because then whenever a trap monster is summoned, this card actually pops a spell or trap. So you get like a spell or trap pop and then something else. There's a couple different things that it gives you. I don't know if it's like amazing. I don't think it's amazing, but I think it's cheeky. I think it's interesting. I think especially for something like Eldritch, this is something interesting. And if maybe in the next couple months, year, whatever, we get like more actual Eldritch support, maybe more Golden Land cards that like are really like even better to search off of this card, is like because they're not legit starters on their own, because it's not like you can get Scarlet Sanguine or something off of this, but you can get Conquistador and Hakero. There could be something interesting here for this, or just any trap deck that comes down the line that uses continuous traps is also something spicy. So I think this card's super interesting. Yeah. This is like dumb stuff. Like, so this is technically a Sinful Spoils card. I think it's like maybe the only Sinful Spoils card in the set. It's basically just a way for them to tie like White Woods in with the Sinful Spoils legacy or lore stuff. It basically doesn't really make much sense. It's not a great card or anything for them, but it just ties in. I figured to throw it in just because it's there. There's a fun little continuous spell where you can like, it's almost like a mini Zealantis, where like you can like banish a monster on the field and then it immediately comes back. So maybe for like a hard once per turn card, or I'm sorry, a soft once per turn card, it's only while it's on the field kind of thing. You can like do something like I think somebody commented like Mirror Jade. It's really funny. You can like banish something with Mirror Jade, then banish Mirror Jade, bring him right back, and he can banish something immediately again. That's kind of cool. And I believe it can actually trigger on the opponent's turn too. So you might be able to go like even on their turn, interrupt them, banish and bring him back, boom, and he's alive again. Interesting card. I don't know. I doubt it'll see much play, but it was funny. Another quick play spell. This card's like really bad evenly matched. I wouldn't look too much into it. Voiceless Voice. This trap will not see play. I very highly doubt that it'll see play. And the last card is actually a new like Ash Blossom-esque hand trap. I mean, this is what's really cool, I think, in this set, is it feels like we've had a couple sets since we've had like generic, like every player is going to be interested in these. I'm not saying these cards are the next Ash Blossoms or the next Maxis entirely in terms of how much play they're going to see, but I think like every competitive player is going to look at these two cards, go, let me get my play set. If it's as long as I'm okay shelling the money for it, let me get my play set of these, because like these are totally playable hand traps, and for formats where they're good, I want to have them at the ready. And I think that's cool, because it felt like we've had some high-end chase cards, but those chase cards were like still specific to like types of decks, and so if you weren't into those types of decks, then those cards didn't really mean much to you. But these kind of generically apply to almost any deck you could be playing, so I think they have a little more mass appeal there. So this card's kind of like an Ash Blossom. It's like it can like negate a card that has an effect that would add a card from deck to hand. Cool enough. It has like some bonus effects, but like they're kind of hard to set up. They won't be live that often, so I'm not worried about it. The only thing this set probably doesn't have is like a top tier deck to me. I think these two are like kind of close, and I think these two will see play in in the competitive scene. I just don't know that they're like top tier, like top 2 or 3 decks in the game worthy. But I still think they're really interesting to me. So all in all, how much impact does it have on the game? Like, it's going to have some. I think Gimmick Puppet comes up there as a real threat. I think Tenpai gets a little bit better. These couple of rogue deck like engines float around, and then a couple of the already kind of roguish decks right now get some solid stuff here, right? Does Dragon Link get a little better here? Is this enough to make Rika's output good enough by getting extra draws on the end of the turn? Is Drytron's engine good enough now? Madolche's end board is better. Memento's immensely better, it feels like. And Centurion getting a small buff too. And then even some of these generic cards like the hand traps, and then even some of these for specific decks could be kind of interesting there. So there's going to be some impact. I don't think it's the craziest impact in the world. This is not Power of the Elements level stuff. We don't have like a Sprite tier limit combo coming through to wreck the entire metagame, but I think it's got some cool stuff. And then we just got to wait and see what comes from the last part of like the TCG side of the set as well. So there you go. that's where I land on this stuff. I think this set's cool. I think right now, looking at it, before seeing whatever the new TCG exclusive archetype's going to be, or what imports or TCG exclusive cards come out, I think I give this set like a cool 6.5, 7, right on par with where I kind of land with Legacy of Destruction. It's not super impactful, but it does have a good handful of things that I'll keep my eye on and I will be interested in, and then we'll go from there. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on Infinite Forbidden. Cool set. Excited to see what comes next from the core sets. Excited to see if there's actual shark cards in the next core set. That is so exciting. But I'm out of here for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, as always. Stay tuned for more stuff. I'm picking up the Melodious cards this week, and then I'm gonna do a profile, really in-depth profile with it, because it's the deck I've been messing with by far more than anything else. So I want to get you guys that out to you, and I will see you in the next video. Aside from that, but thanks, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.